Hello, welcome to another video on Nix programming. We've made it up to functions. We've gone through calling functions and defining functions. And now we're going to start with attribute set arguments, which is when you're passing an argument that is an attribute set. So we'll do that. If you're just coming in for the first time here, there are previous videos which are linked in the description which go over the Nix dev language. And so you can take a look at those. The idea here is I'm learning it. And so if you do this with me, you learn it also. These are short videos, about 20 minutes each. And if you have any problems or you're confused by anything, join the Discord. That is linked in the description. And let me know if you have any comments or if something seems unclear. Okay, so let's go right into it. Attribute set argument, also known as keyword arguments or destructuring. What a cute little name. Nix functions can be declared to require an attribute set with specific structure as argument. This is denoted by listing the expected attribute names separated by commas and enclosed in braces. Okay, that's pretty clear, I think. Here is a function. It takes in an attribute set because it's in braces, and it has two attribute keys that it needs, A and B. And so it's going to grab the values, like, in the attribute set, it'll be like A equals 1, B equals 2, and it'll add these two together. And when you evaluate just this, it says lambda because this is a function. I guess we can just type that in. Yeah, I know, it's kind of like slow, right? But let's type it in just because I think it's great to get used to things. So here's the head, well, the parameters of the function, and here's the body, which is a plus b, and it says lambda, so that's perfect. I should bring up my editor here, projects Nix, and then I think we're editing default. You guys see that I have Nix shell here. Sorry, I didn't prepare prior to this. I just got up, and so let's go and do this. All right, so let's go ahead and type this in. If we do let f equals, we're trying to go ahead here. It takes in two keys from an attribute set and adds the values together. And now in here, we should be able to do f and pass it in an attribute set like A equals 1 and B equals 2. And this should add these two things up and give us the return value. So let's go ahead and run nix instantiate minus eval minus strict, and that'll load up default.nix by default. Okay, in an assignment, you need a semicolon at the end. If you guys watched the previous videos, this is what I do every single time. And it added the two numbers together, and we got 3. So that's exactly what we expected. If you recall, these kind of like doing it in one line or several lines, this could look easily like this instead. But that's just up to us. The compiler itself doesn't care. All right, so here we go. Let's go back to the documentation. The argument defines the exact attributes that have to be in the set, in that set. Leaving out or passing additional attributes is an error. Okay, so this is exactly what we typed. And that worked. And let's go ahead and try to not pass in something. Yeah, that's pretty obvious, right? Like, if I don't pass in a B, it's going to say there's a problem here, right? Function f called without required argument b. And if I add too many, that's an odd way to look at it. It said, I should probably make this a little bit bigger. function f called with unexpected argument c. That makes sense because I passed in c and we don't need it. All right, perfect. And this is what they did too. They passed in a c here. It doesn't need it, and it said unexpected argument c. Default values, also known as default arguments. Destructured arguments can have default values for attributes. This is denoted by separating the attribute name and its default value with a question mark. Attributes in the arguments are not required if they have a default value. So that just means I don't need to pass in a b in the function call if it has a default value. So let's try to write that without looking at it. So let's remove everything again. We'll write the function a and b, but b takes in a default value of 0, and it just adds them together. This is an assignment, so I have to put a semicolon. And then I can pass a equals 1, and we just leave it like this. Sorry, I had a brain freeze there. Assignment, you need a semicolon. One day I will learn this. How do I learn all this other stuff, but I always forget the semicolon? So it is 1 because b got 0, and so it tried to add 1 to 0, and it just ends up being 1. And if I change this to 10, then it should give us an 11. There we go. And I can pass this still and override the default, and this should give us, oh, I almost did it again, give us 3. Here we go. All right. Oh, but still, like, oh, really interesting. You can have basically, it takes an attribute, but they all have default values. That's cool. So if I do a equals a defaults, oops, a defaults to 0, b defaults to 10, and I can pass nothing. Oops. Let's see how this goes. Yeah, it works. All right, additional attributes. Additional attributes are allowed with an ellipses. Okay. So by default, we saw when we tried to pass a C, it said, hey, I didn't know what a C was. But here it's just saying, okay, you can pass more. It's just giving permission. So let's write that. We'll add a C. Oh, sorry. We add the ellipses. And now when we do a equals 1, b equals 2, c equals 3, it should be okay with it. Yep. So it did 1 plus 2 and gave 3 and just pretty much ignored c. And you can see that if I remove this here, it will give me back that error again. It said, yeah, it's called with unexpected argument c. And anything else we want to do here? Yeah, so apparently I can probably do this too, where I pass in just a c because the others have default values. And now it used a 0 and 10 as the default values, added those together, and made a 10. All right, does that make sense? Unlike the previous counter example, passing an argument that contains additional attributes is not an error because we have the ellipses here. So when we pass into c equals 3, it's fine. Now we are at named attribute set argument, also known as @pattern, @syntax, @syntax. This is the thing that I didn't like I couldn't figure out when I first just saw it. Syntactically, I had no idea what it meant. An attribute set argument can be given a name to be accessible as a whole. Okay, this is denoted by prepending or appending the name to the attribute set argument separated by the @ sign. I see. Got it, got it, got it. So what this is saying is, here's my A, B, and, other stuff, right? And normally I can pull out the A and the B because I called it out here, but I can also use this this way of like getting the attribute values out by using the name of the attribute set called args because we named it here. And then we do dot notation and we call C, which is a key within the attribute set. So looks like the args can be either in the front or the back. And here's the example, A, B, dot, 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 so you can pass in extra stuff. And it's going to grab the A and B, which we matched here, and it's going to go and look for a C. And that works. So this really only makes sense if you have the dot, dot, dots, because if you knew all the names, all the attribute names ahead of time, why wouldn't you just add it here, right? Like you do A, B, C, and then you just do A plus B plus C. But maybe for some reason it might have optional values or something like that, and you have to pull it out and you use this other way of doing it. So let's try and write that. Let's just delete this all. So we make a function. It takes in, I'll use the @args afterwards. So it takes in an attribute set, A and B. Those are the two ones we care about. Let's do it without the C. And then we do @, and we'll call it something else. We'll call it like args my set. And then the function of the body of the function is going to be A plus B. Let's just leave it at that and just see, like, we're not even using my set. Let's see what happens. And I forgot again that we need to add a semicolon in, and then we'll call this function and pass in A equals 1, B equals 2. There we go. I can do this. Okay, so it didn't complain. It didn't even warn us that we named something without using it. Now, if I try to do my set plus B, we're just adding B again. This should work, right? Because, so this should do 1 plus 2 plus 2, which is 5. Let's see if that works. Yep. And now we'll just add an extra thing in here. We'll say ellipses, which means it can have anything. And then we'll call plus my set FF. We're not passing the FF. So it said attribute FF is missing. Now let's say we wanted to, let's just pass the FF. And now it works. So I guess like this is just another syntax thing. The funny thing is when you're learning a language, sometimes you learn like, hey, you can do this, but you don't really know why you would use it yet. So we'll see later how useful this can be, but when we see this, that's what happens. And just to make sure we know how to do this, we can also supposedly add it here in the front, and this should work too. Yep. I don't think there's more to say about this. And I think this is a short video. We're only like, I don't know where to tell how long we've been recording. But I don't want to start function libraries because I think that will probably be long. Yeah. impurities, paths, fetchers. So let's not start that until next time. Play around with what we've learned so far. I think after we finish the language itself, we'll do another series where we're trying to like actually use Nix, because I haven't really used it. I have it installed, but I barely know how to make it work. So yeah, please like and subscribe, ask any questions, join the Discord, and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.